Deep inside every single one of us, there's this ancient, pressurized force of nature. It's not good, it's not evil. It just is. It's this primal energy, and it absolutely demands to be expressed. So the question isn't if this force is in you, but what are you going to do with it? Let's dive into the two big paths that open up from that one choice: the path of creating something real, and the path of just following the herd.
And this quote, man, it just gets right to the heart of it. This internal pressure, this heat, this raw energy, it's coming. It's inevitable. You can't ignore it. You can't wish it away. Trying to suppress it, that's like trying to put a cap on a volcano. Sooner or later, that pressure is going to find a way out. So this sets us up not for a fight against our own nature, but for a negotiation with it.
So, what are we actually talking about with this internal flame? Well, think of it like magma deep down in the earth. It's an amoral, biological necessity. It's not some moral failing or a sign that you're wicked. Nope. It's just a fundamental part of being alive, and it needs an outlet. And if it doesn't get one, that's when you get what the Source calls fatal stagnation, where your soul just kind of slowly becomes this pressurized tomb. But here's the thing. This incredibly powerful force inside you, it doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? The second it shows up, it runs smack into an equally powerful force on the outside: society. And the Source has a name for this collective pressure. It calls it the herd. And well, the herd has a very different plan for your flame. This imagery from one of the parables is just so powerful, isn't it? It paints this perfect picture of a world that's built on being predictable, on conforming. See, what the herd really wants is this state of collective slumber, this hollow kind of peace where nobody makes waves. It's a world where looking like you're in harmony is way, way more important than actually living your own truth. So to keep this whole slumber party going, the herd is terrified of anything wild, anything truly honest. If your internal flame starts burning just a little too bright, or if you move out of rhythm with everyone else, you get a label slapped on you. You're mad, you're wicked. And here's the really crucial part. The herd punishes honesty, not because honesty is wrong, but because it holds up a mirror to its own cowardice. Okay, so you've got this fire inside you, and you've got this massive pressure from the outside trying to put it out. This clash creates a fundamental choice. So now we're going to look at three different archetypes, basically three classic responses to this exact conflict. First up, we've got the merchant. This is the prince from the story who built that kingdom of endless parties and distractions. To the merchant, that internal flame is just a purposeless nuisance. It's that annoying hum of reality that you have to drown out with noise and status and these perfectly manicured gardens of reason. But their fate, well, they always become a victim when their fragile, perfect little world inevitably shatters. Next, there's the knight, the vain deceiver. Now, the knight feels the heat. They feel that raw, animal force inside, but they're ashamed of it, so they hide it. They wrap it up in the robes of a noble cause or some divine justice. Think of the acolyte who told himself his silence was a sign of purity, when really he was just choking down his own nature. The knight ends up being a puppet to the very fire they refuse to even name. They're never its master. And finally, we get to our hero figure, the architect. The architect looks at the flame and doesn't see a nuisance or a sin. They see a biological necessity. They get it. They understand the fire is coming no matter what, so they don't run. Instead, like the second brother in the parable, they build a forge. They find real dignity by taking all that raw heat and channeling it into a creative purpose. But here's the catch. The fragile illusions of the merchant and the noble lies of the knight, they can't last forever. The sources tell us about these catalyst figures who show up to force a confrontation with reality, whether anyone wants it or not. And here they are, our two catalysts. On one hand, you've got the wandering spirit. They're the perceiver. This is the person who sees a biological need where everyone else in the herd just sees sin. They can hear the rhythm of a coming storm long before it hits. And then you have the high judge. The high judge is the enforcer. This is the force that arrives with the storm and forces a direct, you can't look away confrontation with the truth. Now, what's so wild about how the High Judge operates is that it doesn't use a sword. Its weapon is a mirror of polished obsidian. It doesn't have to attack. It just reflects. It shows the total emptiness and the intellectual poverty of the merchant's kingdom, or the knight's vanity, right back at them. In that reflection, just seeing the truth is enough to make their whole world crumble. It is the ultimate reality check. Okay, I know what you might be thinking. These truth tellers sound kind of scary, right? And the herd definitely thinks so. But the sources argue they're actually society's essential insurance policy. They're like the deep-rooted weeds in a city made of glass. When the drought comes and all the perfectly pruned, shallow-rooted trees start to wither, it's the wild, deep-rooted ones that survive and make sure life can continue. They carry the resilience that these fragile systems desperately need. And all of this leads us to the most empowering path of all, the way of the architect. This is the path that shows us how to go from being a victim of our own nature to becoming its creator. This right here, this is the core philosophy. It's not about avoiding pain or chasing comfort. It's about accepting that the creative process involves heat and pressure and, yeah, even pain. It's about looking at that dangerous internal energy and embracing it as the raw material you need to build something that actually matters. So how do you actually do it? Well, it kind of breaks down into 3 steps. First, you have to acknowledge the heat. Just stop fighting it, stop calling it evil, and just accept it as part of you. Second, you build the hearth. You create a structure, a discipline, a practice to contain and direct that energy so it doesn't just burn everything down. And third, you forge a purpose. You actively use that heat to create, to temper steel, to turn sand into jewels, to carve out your own destiny. So at the end of the day, after you face the pressure from the herd, and after you stare into that unflinching mirror of truth, every single soul arrives at this fundamental crossroads. It all boils down to one simple but massive choice. And there it is. That's the whole ballgame. Are you going to go the way of the merchant and spend your life building walls of distraction, reputation, and denial to hide from the tough realities of existence? Or are you going to go the way of the architect, turn inward, tend that flame, build a forge, and face existence head-on with purpose and with dignity? The stories don't give a final answer for everybody, because the answer isn't in a story, it's with each of us. Are you building a wall to protect a fragile illusion? Or are you building a forge to create a meaningful reality? That's the question we're left with. So, which will you choose?